cassette recorder, the Sony Betamax model SL-7200 or 00A. We take our Blu-rays and our DVDs so much for granted today, and they offer such wonderful capabilities. When home recorders first came out, I became obsessed with them, and I had to have one. Back then, sometime in the late 1970s, there were only two places in Escoda, Michigan, where I lived, that sold video recorders: Heart TV and the Boppin' Shop. And over the years, I did a lot of business with both of them. However, alas, both have gone to the way of the dinosaurs, and they are gone, or extinct, if you will. I saw my first VCR at the Boppin' Shop, that Sony Betamax, and I said, I was totally obsessed with it. They were new on the market, on the home market, and very expensive. The one at the Boppin' Shop was well over $1,000 with tax. That was a heck of a lot of money then. I was working for minimum wage at a local sweat factory which manufactured pool sticks. And after putting in a 40-hour week of work, there was not much money left to have fun with. If I were going to buy one, I realized I would need to get a personal loan. But at that time, I had not yet established my credit, so I would need somebody to co-sign. I asked my dad if he would do that, and as long as I assured him that I would keep up the monthly payment, he agreed to co-sign for me. So he met me one evening after work at the bank in downtown Escoda and put down his signature. And after signing, Dad went home, and I went on with my $1,000+ and bought my very first VCR. These early machines were big and, oh God, they weighed a ton. They were basically just a record and play machine. They did not have a remote control. If you wanted to record a television show and take out the commercials, you needed to sit right by the VCR, which had a silver lever that allowed you to pause and restart the recording. And on the front was a tuner knob like most TVs had. The store owner had to make a number of house calls before my tuner would work right. The maximum recording time was 2 hours. These tapes were also quite expensive for the time, at $20 for a 2-hour blank. Being that expensive, I had to be very selective in what programming I recorded. There were 2 recording speeds, 1 hour, 2 hours. At that time, my favorite actress was Bette Davis, and WBKB-TV out of Detroit had a daily movie in the afternoon, and it was hosted by Bill Kennedy. Kennedy, while he never made it big in the movies, did appear in small parts in quite a few movies, and on his program he would tell about his experiences in Hollywood of the 1940s and of the actresses and actors that he met. His program, Bill Kennedy at the Movies, featured many, many Bette Davis movies. But being in the afternoon, though, and with no timer, because they didn't come with a timer, I had to recruit someone for me whilst I was at work, and that someone turned out to be my mom. She loved Bette Davis also, but the poor lady sat many, many hours sitting next to the Betamax, pausing for commercials and restarting the recording after the ads and Bill Kennedy's segments were done. Thanks to her dedicated efforts, I had a pretty outstanding collection of Davis films from the 30s through the 1940s. When these first recorders hit the market, there were no cameras for making my own videos, and that's what I really wanted to be able to do. One day I walked into Heart TV to pick up some blank video cassettes when I saw the next thing I became obsessed with: a black and white RCA video camera. A no-frills camera. This first camera came out was only available as a strict, straight point-and-shoot camera. There was no zoom lens, nothing like that. But its name seemed to be calling. It seemed to be calling my name, I should say. I can't recall for sure, but I believe it was around $300. Of course, I did not have that kind of money, so Mr. Hart agreed to let me pay $25 to $50 a week until it was paid off. And I didn't get to take the camera home until it was paid off, so I did it as quickly as I could. By today's standards, the camera wasn't much, but to me it was a technological miracle. Its use was limited to no further than about 4 feet from the recorder, because that's as long as the connecting cables would reach. I did a lot of video in the living room of my parents' house, just fun little short things. I did, however, take it to some various functions, like at that time I was a member of Huron Baptist Church, pastored by Pastor Phillips. I often took the big old Betamax and the camera and recorded the services there. One outing is particularly memorable for me. Huron Baptist Church was sponsoring a week-long tent revival on a very dusty lot near Wurtsmith Air Force Base, a couple miles from the actual church. Pastor Phillips asked if I could record the services. There were many guest speakers and a group of kids who played the bells. Those kids were really great. They did such a great job. I wish the recording still existed or was in my collection, but it's not. One thing I was warned about when I bought the VCR, keep it away from dust. And when the breeze picked up in that tent for the revival, there was no way to avoid the blowing dust. Plus, it was incredibly hot and humid in that tent. But both the Betamax and the camera performed flawlessly. It's funny how owning the town's only video cassette recorder could get me into a place I would otherwise been unwelcome. I worked at Norwood Products Company, and two of the owners belonged to some group of self-important people. I can't remember the name of the organization. The group had a video cassette that they wanted played at one of their meetings, so the owner, I'll call Dick as I don't want to use his real name, well, he asked me if I could take my VCR to the meeting and play the video. They were meeting at Charbonneau's restaurant, and in return for my service, they offered to buy me my dinner. I wasn't particularly excited about the meal, but I agreed to do it. A friend of mine, who also worked at Norwood Products, agreed to help me, but I can't remember who. It might have been Dennis Beckner. We did a lot of things together. Well, of all nights, the Betamax gave me problems just when I wanted to impress these men. Why I would care what they thought was beyond me. The second owner of the company where I worked, also a member, was the type of man who looked down his nose at everyone, especially the guys who worked for his company. I had heard him one day at the factory running me down and telling Dick that he joined the group to be around intelligent people, not to be around the likes of me. The likes of me? I was a pretty good person, but I let his comment hurt. Anyways, that was a bit off topic. He was a jerk, and everybody around him knew it. But eventually, the VHS format came onto the market and quickly overran the Betamax. VHS had longer recording time for about the same price, so the logical choice was to go VHS. There were a lot of people who remained faithful to the Sony Betamax, but not enough for it to remain around, and it was quickly an extinct species. The first couple weeks after I bought my Sony Betamax, I considered it worthless. But once I began building a library of titles, it became an indispensable part of my life, as well as to millions of others, as it caught on and the price came tumbling down, and it changed the way Americans were entertained. Within a year, my machine was out of date, and I quickly bought another VCR. This time it was a VHS recorder. Of course, now Betamax and VHS are relics of the past. DVDs came along, and now Blu-ray, and who knows what will come next. I want to dedicate this program to a very dear friend of mine who is now passed and gone home to be with the Lord. It was Dewey Martin, and we had briefly a collaboration called Do More Productions, where we would go out and do different recordings for people. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. God bless.